All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Travel Market Report's Master Advisor Series. Today is November 14th, 2024. We're really excited for today's episode. We'll be talking trends for 2025. We have a pair of great travel advisors here joining us, and we also have a sponsor to get to. But I just want to make a couple of announcements first to sort of set us up for the next 45 minutes or so. As always, switching to speaker view is going to be the best way for you to view this session. You can switch into it on the top right there. I'm sure everyone's familiar with Zoom these days, but you want to switch into speaker view, again, the top right. The chat is going to be open if you want to open it on your bottom right. Questions, comments, all good in the chat. We always love to grab as much audience input as possible. So please don't be shy in there if you're hanging out with us today. Drop whatever comments, whatever questions. We're gonna have a lot to get to today. So I'd love to hear everyone's input and everyone's point of view as we go through the trends for 2025. One quick reminder that our next episode is going to be on December 13th. We have the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US, and then we have some other stuff going on. So December 13th is going to be our next one. It's going to be on how to grow your database, particularly through social media. Registration for that is going to go out pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. And that's going to be our last one for the year. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you sort of celebrate the end of 24 with us on December 13th. Tom just dropped the link to that in the Zoom there. So if you're interested, if you have that day free, if you're wrapping things up and you feel like hanging out again for 45 minutes, go ahead and register on that link. And then I just want to drop the link to our YouTube channel in the chat. We get questions as we go along through every episode about if we're able to rewatch these. The answer is always yes, and the home for all that content is going to be on the YouTube channel. So links in the chat if you want to head over there. Again, if you have time, if you're doing busy work and you want to listen to any of these episodes, any of our other audio content, some good video content's on there too, you can go ahead and head over there. And as always, subscribe, like, interacting with those videos helps us boost up in the algorithm and helps us keep growing this community. So all the interactions over there are very much appreciated. Hello, Richard. And then so one more thing before we get to our interview, I want to go ahead and introduce today's sponsor. We're really happy to have Brian Ellers back from ALG Vacations, who's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on with him and what's going on with ALG Vacations.
All right, great. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you so much, as always, for this opportunity. I can't tell you how many of your sessions I've watched and listened to, so when we at ALG Vacations are asked to join, we are more than happy to do so. And I won't steal too much of your thunder. I'll let you introduce the two lovely ladies who are also joining today, but I'm so glad to be sharing this time with the two of them, and honored to say that they are not only fantastic partners of ALG Vacations, but great friends as well. But this is a great topic today, the trends defining travel in 2025. And we're seeing quite a few, some rolling over from 2024, of course. But one hot topic or theme that we're continuing to see is luxury. This past year, we're very excited to say that we rolled out our new luxury program, Lux by ALG Vacations. We really put a lot of work into creating this new program and wanted to really choose the right hotels and resorts that were the perfect fit for the program. So the portfolio is currently over 450 luxurious hotels worldwide. Each of them is AAA 5 Diamond. And for destinations that don't utilize the AAA ratings, the hotels we chose must be an ALGV 5-star rating, plus also part of another industry luxury program. And all these world-class hotels are directly contracted, so no third-party intermediaries. And many of the participating hotels and resorts also offer exclusive luxury amenities, things like room upgrades, resort or spa credits, complimentary bottles of wine, and much more, of course. And in my opinion, that's not even the best part. Once you do make a Lux booking through any of our ALGV brands, you then have access to the Lux Concierge Desk. It's a one-stop solution for all your pre, during, or post-travel needs. And they'll handle all the personal touch requests that your clients have. So whether it be something as simple as making a dining reservation or spa appointment, or having your client's favorite tequila in their private M-Star transfer to their resort, our luxury concierge team can assist. And remember, the Lux program has participating hotels around the world. So not just in Mexico and the Caribbean. Of course, historically, sun and sand destinations have been our bread and butter, but we do offer so many more destinations, which actually brings me to the next 2025 trend that we're seeing continue. Europe has been in such high demand, which has been great news for us since we've really expanded our Europe portfolio. Not only adding hotels, but airline carriers and ground operators as well. If any travel advisors out there just mainly come to ALGV for only sun and sand destinations, I recommend you check out all we have to offer in Europe. I know you'll be pleasantly surprised. And also, while on the topic of Europe, I have to mention our Travelog option. These online travel catalogs are so valuable to travel advisors, not only for Europe, but definitely one of the first tools that we offer that I think of when I think of Europe. These travel logs offer so much information at your fingertips. So if you aren't necessarily an expert in some European destinations, definitely check these out. They're found on any of our ALGV brand homepages off of Vax. And with that, I don't want to take up too much of the time. So thank you again for having me on this afternoon. I'm definitely going to hang around, though, as I can't wait to hear some more insight from the next two ladies you have on. So thanks again, and appreciate the time.
All right, awesome. All right, and we already have some questions in the chat, Brian, if you're hanging around. But thank you so much. I know luxury in Europe. I know we're going to touch on that with our guests today. So we have 7 trends to get to, like sort of 7 categories of trends for the next 40 minutes or so. Before we do that, I just want to welcome Kim Goldstein, president of Journeys Incorporated and a previous MasterAdvisor guest, and Jennifer Byrne, who's the CEO of the Tropical Travelers. I'm going to let them both introduce themselves, but first I want to say thank you for both of your time this week. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you both. But Kim, this is your second time here. I was hoping you could sort of kick us off with just sort of a little introduction on you and yeah.
Sure. I'm Kim Goldstein. I own Journeys Incorporated in Richmond, Virginia. We've been around forever, since 1987. We're really full service. I mean, our specialties are fun and sun destinations, destination weddings, honeymoons, family vacations. We kind of do all of it, and work very closely with ALGV to handle most of our bookings. So they make it really smooth and easy for us. So thanks for having me back.
All right, awesome. Yeah. And we'll see if Tom can hunt down the previous episode you did with us a couple years ago. And I'm sure I look a lot different back then too. I think that was in the pandemic. So we'll see if Tom can hunt that down. Jennifer Byrne, thank you again for joining us. So yeah, you want to give us sort of a little intro to you and your career in travel as well.
Sure. I am Jennifer Byrne. I'm the owner of the Tropical Travelers in Malvern, Pennsylvania. I actually started at Apple Vacations in the mid-90s, my career in the travel industry. I opened the Tropical Travelers in 2001, and we started as a tropical honeymoon company. I now have almost 20 advisors and team that work with me to plan vacations around the globe. So it has definitely changed based on the landscape and everything else that has happened in this industry over the past almost 25 years. So yeah, we've seen a lot, and we are just rolling with it. So we're here to talk about trends today.
And I know you have some interesting stuff with your agency. Hopefully we talk about that. We get to that trend. I know that's one of our later ones, but let's stick with you, Jennifer. So we spoke a little earlier in the week. You both sort of gave me your perspective on what's happening in the industry right now that's going to impact clients in 2025 and your business in 2025. And one of the things that sort of stuck out was this increased demand for personalization. I've spoken to a lot of luxury agencies, a lot of other agencies as well, and that seems to come up a lot is travelers' expectations are changing when it comes to personalization. And I'm curious, Jennifer, if you could start us off with what do clients want now when they're working with you? What are new clients seeking after when they start a relationship with a travel advisor? And why do you feel like they're moving away from cookie cutter experiences?
That's a key word, cookie cutter. They do not want to do what their friends are doing, especially when it comes to like honeymooners. They don't want to go where the other couples went. They want new things. And I think with the internet, it seems like a great idea for them to go and look around on the internet, but they're kind of getting overwhelmed with everything on there. So then they come to us, and they just want something different. They want off the beaten path. They want new and exciting things. They don't just want to go and just stay at the same place that their friends went. So that's kind of where this whole cookie cutter thing gets thrown out the window, and they want something new and exciting. And we have, all these things up our sleeve, different places, destinations, resorts that we can advise them on.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, Kim, I assume you sort of have the same line of thinking, but why is this happening now? Why are people moving away from cookie cutter experiences? Is it simply because this revenge travel has taken them to places they want to go post COVID, or is it something else entirely?
I think part of it is a lot of people have actually done some of those cookie cutter experiences and now they're looking for something different. I also think with the internet and just social media in general, they're exposed to so much more and they see things and they're like, oh, I want to do that, or I want to try that. So they're able to really kind of tap into places that they may not have even thought of in the past. And I think, with revenge travel, people are really just trying to get out there and experience the world and not do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting that like you both you meant like these new experiences, people obviously seem to create a bucket list during the pandemic when everyone was trapped inside, and those haven't been exhausted yet. Like it seems like there's still a lot left on people's bucket lists.
Absolutely. I think we all have big bucket lists. So yeah, they do have a very long list and they want to start checking the boxes and getting them done.
All right. So Jennifer, you mentioned social media a little bit, how people are seeing things on social media and craving that kind of experience, or people are seeing photos and wanting to be in that specific position, or they're seeing buzzwords and things like that. I was hoping you could tell us a little about when you're getting approached by someone, and they come with their own specific vision for a trip. What kind of guidance can you give them in order to sort of push them to an area that's maybe more realistic or more available within their budget or with their time frame, or however they're constrained by that particular vacation?
We kind of have to tread lightly here because if a client has a very specific idea of what they want, when you come in and you're like listening to everything that their bucket list, has on it, then sometimes it doesn't jive with what their overall idea is as far as where they want to go or what they want that experience to be. So we really have to talk to them and really understand what they want this experience to be and kind of get them to understand that maybe that end result isn't exactly what would fit with them, as far as their ideas go. And I mean, it's definitely a conversation. We really have to take the time to listen. It's not about what I want or what I can afford or what I like. It's really about them and helping them to understand all the logistics that go into it and, all the options that are out there.
Seriously, where is the disconnect, Jennifer? Like, is it mostly budget? Is it mostly the availability? Like when you get a vision and it's going to be incompatible with what's available, like where is the difference between the two?
I think I mean, some of it's budget, but a lot of it is what their friends tell them. Everybody has a friend, everybody has a family member, a coworker that says, you definitely need to go here. You're going to love it. But that doesn't necessarily jive with what their vacation style is. So it's just, really understanding what they want and, explaining that what your friend did might be amazing, but is that really what you want to do? Let's talk through it, what their experience was and really what you want to do.
And are there any are you getting any common requests now, particularly because I know we'll talk about it later. You do a lot of marketing on social media. You get a lot of referrals or a lot of leads from social media. Are there any common like hot requests that are coming in, particularly from people who are exposed to that world?
Um, our requests are all over the board.
Okay, all right.
It just really depends on, what they're seeing online. I think some of the other topics that we have for today, talk more about, if they're on TV, if they see something on a TV
Okay.
show and stuff like that. So.
All right, awesome. All right. And then Kim, anything else from you on personalization? Like we talk about this need to sort of go above and beyond or create an experience that's not the cookie cutter experience. I mean, anything you've been doing with your clients or anything that sort of lends in that direction that makes you more valuable to them or gives them a better experience or more loyalty to you and your agency?
Yeah, one of the projects we're actually getting ready to start tomorrow on our team is to really kind of create a wow experience. We're getting a ton of Europe.
Okay.
And there's so many tours and things out there. So what we're going to try to do is kind of develop some wow tours that, by destination, because we want those to be the memorable part of their trip. I mean, the hotels are fabulous, the destinations are fabulous, but we want there to be like one particular thing that really just they're going to be talking about for 5 years. So we're trying to kind of document that list. I think it's in all of our heads, but we're going to try to like document it and be a little more consistent with it so that they can get these really unique experiences.
Any specific things you can share with us? Because I'm sure the advisors would want to jump on that idea. Like any specific tours or any specific experiences?
So we're starting with Spain tomorrow, which I actually was just in Spain not long ago. But I mean, I think it kind of depends. I mean, you've got your standard tours. A lot of times food tours can really be what people talk about, especially, everybody says they're a foodie. So they will talk about those. I mean, we did when we were in Spain, we went to Real Madrid game, a soccer game. Now I'm from a big soccer family, so that's not really surprising, but like for us, my kids will never forget that experience. So a little bit of it is going to be tailored to what
Yeah.
they're looking for. In Paris, there's a really neat like detective tour of the Louvre and, some things like that just are very unique and not your standard 3 hours of people just kind of spitting out info at you about their destination.
Yeah, the local experiences, like local experience I've had, I know or stand out. I mean, we have ALG Vacations on with us, but I did a food tour in Cancun a couple years ago with them, and it's still when I think of Mexico, I always think of the tacos I had in Cancun. So I completely agree. It seems like the local experiences that you sort of have to get off the main road, get off whatever the mainstream experience seem to be a big thing. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is something you both pitched me earlier week, which is destination dupes. Jennifer, I was hoping you could just give us your definition of what that term means, and then talk us a little bit about how it's impacting you for 25.
So potential clients have a habit of looking on Instagram or other social media sites and finding these really cool, amazing places. And they don't necessarily understand the costs that are involved or logistics to get to these places. So an example would be the Maldives, Bora Bora. Everybody wants an overwater bungalow. Can they afford them? Not always. Do they want to fly 25 hours to get there? No. So they want to stay in a villa or a bungalow like that, but where are they? So we are sometimes able to find things in other places that would be more applicable to what their overall bucket list looks like in order to make that happen for them. That's just one example. I know Kim has a couple other ideas on that too.
So experiences that you can not recreate, but maybe the same feeling you get elsewhere that
Right.
is more appropriate. Okay, Kim. So yeah, Jennifer mentioned the Maldives, Bora Bora. What other ones you think are good to mention today?
I would say for us, the most common one, we're East Coast based. So we get a lot of Hawaii requests, and they want to go to Hawaii for $4,000 for 3 nights from Virginia, which is not really the most realistic thing. So our natural conversion there is to try to get them to St. Lucia. Of course, the budget still needs to come up, but we're also finding pretty much every budget that someone submits to us is probably not realistic because things are pricing so high right now. So we kind of always have to deal with the budget part. But I would say would be our most common one. If they want anywhere really kind of lush and tropical, Costa Rica, Belize are always good ones. If they're looking in Europe in the summer, and they want to do the traditional Santorini, Mykonos, you can always suggest some of the other smaller islands that are there. Just to kind of reduce the cost, but also I think improve the experience because as we all know, Europe is very congested in the summer and it just makes it a little nicer for them and a little more low key.
Curious, when you mentioned pricing and budgets, I mean, I know this isn't directly related to destination dupes, but what are you seeing when it comes to pricing for 25? I know the talk in the industry has been pricing increasing sort of steadily over the last few years. What are you seeing for 25? Are you seeing any relief? And I guess, how are your clients reacting to whatever trend you're seeing?
Yeah, so what I'm kind of noticing as we really start getting into the 2025 FITs, a lot of our groups have already booked out, but the hotel rates definitely seem higher in a lot of situations. It might just be because it's still early in the game and they're, throwing out the rack rates at this point and not really getting into the discounted rates. Air seems to maybe have dropped a little. I mean, from our
Okay.
area, it's always high, so sometimes it's hard for us to gauge, but overall, I would say it seems to be coming down a bit, but the hotel is kind of offsetting that. So
Yeah. And Jennifer, I see you nodding your head. You sort of had the same experience.
Yeah, I definitely see an increase in the hotel pricing over last year. It's noticeable. But the airfare is tricky. It's almost as if the more routes that they put in for flights, I'm in the Northeast, and the more routes that they put in, I see that the airfare comes down. Specifically, Turks and Caicos, for instance. Turks and Caicos was always high. If you could get it for $600, it was good. $800 was average. Now that flights are more prevalent out of Philadelphia, for instance, the airfare has come down substantially. I'm finding $300-400. So when you take that into consideration, and it can offset the cost of these more expensive hotels. So overall, a package might be more affordable for somebody. So
All right. All right. Awesome. Yeah, it's always interesting to get your perspective because I know the conversation was always pricing's high, but consumers are very willing to pay it. So hearing that I think is good to know. Let's move to the next one. Uh Kim, you mentioned sort of overcrowding in some destinations, and I think this sort of goes along with it is travel during shoulder season, travel outside of peak periods. I've been at a couple of industry conferences here, and it seems to be a trend amongst all segments of travelers, from luxury to mass market. Um, I'm curious, like Kim, are you hearing overcrowding as an issue from your clients? Is it something they're actively trying to avoid in 25, or is it something that you are suggesting in order to improve things for them?
it's usually more so something we're suggesting. I find that the clients typically aren't really aware of a lot of that. So it's usually something we may say, like, if we can gauge that they have some flexibility in their schedule and they want to do Europe, pushing them to a little bit more of a shoulder season like May and September, even potentially October, depending on the destination. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something we're bringing to their attention, which of course, as everyone knows, they're very appreciative of because they're spending a lot of money and want to have the best experience out there. And then also too, a lot of times they're not aware of hurricane season or rainy seasons and destinations. So that part is also important to tell them because I think that's less on their radar, and you don't want to send them somewhere where they're going to be, walking around in the rainstorms the entire time.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's something you're not hearing a lot from your clients about these worries of overcrowding because there has been such a media frenzy about overcrowding, particularly in Europe and particularly during the peak season in the summer. So it's interesting that you aren't hearing it as a huge concern.
No,
Yeah,
they,
Jennifer, you mentioned Instagram and I guess social media. I don't. Maybe it's like people want those experience. They want those photos in Europe around these iconic statues or these sort of really famous places. And it's interesting when you see these photos in the summer in Europe about the crowds around the Trevi Fountain in Rome or in Trafalgar Square in London. Like it seems like to me something that'd be super obvious, but I guess that's not really coming through to travelers just yet.
I don't like Kim, we don't really get anybody that's complaining about this or even really thinks of that. And we have to kind of bring it to their attention. But I mean, if you watch videos on any of the social media channels in the summer, you're going to see them like it's crazy in Italy and Greece. They are just flocking there. So do they mind being in the mix of all of this chaos? I guess some of them don't, but some people also have to travel at that time. If they want to go in the summer, they want the good weather and all of that. So they're going to deal with it. But I do hear some people come back and they're like, that was a lot. I don't want to do that again. So yeah, I mean, we try to warn them if we know of something like that, even traveling to an all-inclusive at Christmas time. They don't think of this. It is chaos sometimes at these all-inclusives. There's a lot of people there and they don't realize how crowded some of these things can be. So we try to set the expectations for them.
Are they amenable to that when you do explain to them what the potential is with crowds? Are they, I guess my question is, do they listen to you?
They do to a point. They're still going to go and they're still going to come home and complain. But we told them, and all we can do is warn them and let them know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, awesome. And then yeah, I mean, it's just so the couple of reports I've seen are from, I guess, luxury travelers maybe who tend to be more well traveled than other people. Maybe that's where it's coming from. But it is interesting that both of you are getting clients who aren't discouraged at all by the crowd. So again, another good point for 25. All right, Jennifer, you mentioned all inclusives. I know that's a hot trend. I know it's something that influencers are talking about, is something that a lot of consumers are talking about, and the segment is growing. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of demand for all inclusives and why you think it's trending in one way or another.
All-inclusive has been hot for as long as I can remember, and it's not going away anytime soon. It is just increasing. Hotels that traditionally were not all-inclusive, they are adding meal plans and different things to try to get the travelers to come to their hotels, because some people, I mean, a lot of people they can't get past this all-inclusive concept. Why? There's probably a lot of reasons, but they just don't want to have to pull their wallet out while they're on their trip. But I think a lot of people don't even realize that if you go to a non-inclusive, you still don't have to necessarily do that. You can charge things to the room. But you really have to, again, really understand what that client's motivation is towards that, and if that's really going to work for them. Because if they want to be out and about all day, why are they going to an all-inclusive and paying all of those, paying for their meals and their drinks and their activities at the hotel when they're going to be out touring? So it's just, again, it's having that conversation with them and explaining, but a lot of people cannot get past this. They have to have an all-inclusive no matter what.
Yeah, and I guess Kim, I know you're seeing the same trend, but my question, I know Jennifer, is difficult to answer, but like, why is this happening? Why is this buzzing around consumers? I mean, what are you seeing, Kim? Are consumers, are they really drawn to the not pulling your wallet out, the set price? Is it something else entirely?
No, I think yes, they are totally drawn to it. I think they're really drawn to the set price. And sometimes I'm going to say, like, it doesn't matter what that price is. Obviously, they have constraints and, the budget is not endless, but they just want it simple. They don't want to think when they're on vacation. I think people are pulled in so many directions these days that they just want to get there and, decide what they want to do that day and decide where they want to eat that day and not really have to think about all the logistics of it. So I think we get a lot of, because we do a lot of destination weddings, we get a lot of brand new travelers that really have not gone anywhere. So for them, that's kind of like an easy step into the travel world.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's something that sort of makes perfect sense in my mind. Jennifer, something you said the other day that I thought was super surprising to me was that you're getting requests for all inclusives for destinations that really aren't made or aren't appropriate for the segment.
This is true. And this is super aggravating for the client because they want to go there, but there's no all-inclusives there and they don't want to hear that. They just don't want to hear it. They want that and they want it there. So, again, it's talking through that if you want an all-inclusive, you need to take the name of the destination out of focus and focus on the actual hotel. That is, I tell people this every single day of my life. I don't know why you're focused on the name of that destination. If you're not going to leave that hotel, what's it matter? Pick the hotel up and put it, somewhere else. It's this crazy thing that they have.
So I guess it's the experience or the property over the destination that seems to be for the travel.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I know a lot of cruise lines have moved to inclusive fares over the last couple of years, and they've all marketed it as, again, ease of understanding of what you're going to pay on vacation. And I guess the interest has been generated on the land side too with the all inclusives. But I do think I know Brian's still with us, but I know there's new properties in Europe popping up. There's more like appropriate destinations in Europe for all inclusive experiences, things like that. But it is interesting. I mean, you told me, I forget what city you mentioned, Jennifer, the other day in Europe that someone wanted an experience it as an all-inclusive experience in like the city center. That just seemed so crazy to me.
I can't remember which hotel,
I
was that you, Kim, that said?
Hey, yeah, it was,
Oh.
we have a client who is insistent upon going to Portugal
Oh, yeah.
and wants all-inclusive. And, we have tried and tried to talk them out of it, but, it's like you're kind of missing the whole point of going to the destination. So we kind of take the same approach Jen does, where, you say like, hey, it's really about the resort for you. It's not about the destination. If you're going to go and stay at that resort and maybe only go off property one time, then let's really focus on the resort amenities and making sure we get the best match there. But when you get into Europe and other places that aren't traditionally all-inclusive and the food is fabulous and reasonable, you want to encourage them to go out and experience those things.
All right, so speaking of food, we have 3 more trends left. And again, if anyone has questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. I see a couple of comments about Alaska, and Jennifer and Kim, you both mentioned you don't do a ton of cruising. So I mean, are there either of you familiar with, I guess, the best months for Alaska sailings? Or I assume it's something you're not comfortable talking about.
Funny, we've both been to Alaska, but it's not something that we specialize in.
Awesome.
Doesn't have
Yeah.
palm trees, that's why.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
August, we know August is good. Kim, you actually cruised there.
Yeah, I cruised in August and actually it was really good. I mean, I wouldn't say from a pricing perspective, it was the best. I think if you get on those shoulder months like May and September,
Yeah.
you're going to definitely get a better rate. But, and we have a steady stream of Alaska clients. I mean, we're always dabbling in that for our clients, but also May and September are not your warmest months in Alaska. And if you're like me and think anything below like 60 degrees is winter, then it's, you've got to kind of balance that out. Like, yes, it's fine to pay less and go in a shoulder month, but is that really the experience you're looking for?
Yeah, and it seems hard to find a shoulder month with a limited season already as it is. And so you're sort of finding a segment of a season that's already cut because of the nature of the sailings.
Exactly. I mean, because it just ends when it ends and it starts when it starts. But funny that you mentioned that, because we tend to get clients that will contact us and they want to do a Greek island in like November. And, as most those of you who book Europe know that that's probably not the ideal time to go there because it's cold and a lot of things are closed. So that's definitely something, we have to tell the clients. And I've had one that really just pushed back and they went anyway. And, it's just a completely different experience than what most people envision.
What kind of reaction did you have when they did take that? I mean, I assume you Jennifer, earlier you talked about setting expectations, and I assume that's something you have to do for that kind of situation, Kim.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to tell them that, a lot of things, and we have beaches near us here in Virginia, and I'll reference that if they're from this area and say it's like going there in November, December. Most of the stores are closed. A lot of the restaurants are closed. There's no vibe to the area. So, in Greece, you can run into ferries not running and things being really windy. So, my whole thing that we always talk about on our team is let them know, document it, make sure that, we've got it in writing that we did tell them this, and whatever they ultimately choose to do is what they choose. But, we want to make sure we've told them everything we know possible.
And so this is a kind of a big question because I know you both have experience in the industry. You both have sold in like different periods when different consumer climates were in process. Just like talking about it seems like do you feel as though clients are more educated now or less educated, or is it like the same? Because it's just like talking about visiting Greece in November, talking about sort of wanting an all-inclusive experience in Portugal. It seems like there is a level of education that travel advisors have to undergo now with their clients. And I'm curious, is that something that you're familiar with? Like, or is that something that's increasing? Kim, I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think, honestly, the clients that contact us now compared to, let's say, 15 years ago, to me, seem to be less knowledgeable in general about the destinations, which is ironic because they have so much more information at their fingertips than we did 15 years ago. So I do find that kind of interesting. And sometimes when you're talking to them, it's like trying to talk to a teenager, like they know everything. And I'm like, why are you, I don't say this, but I'm like, why are you contacting me if you know everything? That's kind of what I experience a lot, is just really having to get down to it and tell them about the destination. And I think as a travel advisor, when they start to hear that, it helps build the confidence in your ability as a travel advisor. They're like, okay, she knows what she's talking about. Sometimes it's because we've spent a lot of time in that destination. Sometimes it's because we're chat GPTing it 3 minutes before a consult. We all, learn differently in different situations. So I think that, it does help build that confidence and that trust in you as an advisor.
Yeah. It does seem that there's more information more easily and readily available now than ever before, but that seems to maybe lean into the problem a little more because you don't know which is the correct information. Again, I know people are using chatbots now and they're upfront with saying that they're not entirely accurate. So I do think it's going to be an issue for advisors. And like you mentioned, Kim, it seems like maybe it's a good thing that they're talking to you because they're going to need your expertise. So
Right.
all right, so let's move on to the next one. I was going there before, but Kim, you mentioned culinary experiences, and Jennifer, I guess we'll start with you on this one. Culinary experiences always seem to be hot, whether it's like consumer television or social media. Like if I go to my Discover page on whatever app I'm using, I'm gonna see cooking videos or places to eat near me and things like that. And I know that bleeds over to travel too. Are you hearing a lot from clients about wanting special culinary experiences when they travel, and are you getting any destinations in particular that are sort of falling into this trend?
I don't get people that come to me and ask me for an actual culinary experience, but what they do say is that they're foodies. And this is constant. Everybody's a foodie. And so now we have to decipher what exactly does that mean to you? Because it's very subjective. What one person might like, another person's not going to like. So now we have to figure out, what to do with this. And if they want an all-inclusive, now we've got to figure that whole thing out because they're not going out to fine dining restaurants. And they don't necessarily always mean that they want fine dining if they're foodies. They might really love a good hamburger. So it's very challenging when they come with this foodie idea to understand what they want. But as far as culinary experiences, we don't get a lot of people who want to go and travel specifically to go and do cooking classes and things like that. I think that might be more, if we had travelers going to like Mexico City, Europe, that kind of stuff where they can do a food tour, have a chef come in and do cooking classes and all. It seems more in that area. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
we're seeing.
So I guess if you get someone calling themselves a foodie and going to an all-inclusive, is like, would your job be any different? Are you selling them a little more on the resort's ability to sort of satisfy that need? Like what are you doing differently when you do get that kind of person, just that kind of description?
We have to be very careful because not all inclusives are created equally. So some are better with their food. It's very challenging, I find, because they are relegated to whatever restaurants are on site. It's not like they're really, I mean, they might leave once to go out of the hotel to go find a good restaurant, but for the most part, they're dining there. So if that food's not good, we're going to hear about it.
And Kim, I see you're nodding your head. Is that sort of the same experience you're having as well?
Absolutely. And, I will just kind of say to a client, I'll say, when they throw out their foodie line, because like Jen said, they all do that. So what I will say to them is, you and I can both go to the same restaurant, sit at the same table and order the same meal. I may hate the meal, you may love it. And it's just very subjective. And with all inclusives, I make a point to let them know that, this is not a 5-star dining experience. I mean, maybe if they're at something like Grand Velas, where it is, definitely at that level, but most of our day-to-day clients and wedding groups are not at Grand Bayless. So, you just kind of, again, have to set those expectations and be realistic with them. I'm just a firm believer in being very realistic with the client. And I will tell them, I don't want you to have any surprises. I'm not trying to crush your travel dreams, but, I want you to arrive and know what to expect.
I think every trend we've been through, setting expectations seems to be the key thing, and seems like that's a big deal for everyone. So I think that might be the theme for today, is setting expectations. All right, so we've a couple more quick ones, and then we're gonna wrap up. This next one is we're gonna go through. It's called set jetting. Again, we talked about destination dupes. Jennifer, I'm gonna go back to you with this one. Can you tell us a little bit about what set jetting means and how it's impacting year 25?
Sure. Set jetting is kind of a new buzzword, but it's basically focusing on what people are seeing on TV and social media. I think, Daniel, there might be a problem with the audio.
I think that was an AI, so
Okay.
that's the AI not getting the audio for some
Okay.
reason. Yeah.
So people are seeing these places on TV. It's a lot of reality shows. If the reality show is set in a destination or a resort, all of a sudden we're seeing a huge influx of people that want to go to that location. It's very much about social media, what they're seeing on there. Celebrities are huge. If a celebrity's going, they want to go. Kardashians, housewives, if any of those things, they want to go to those destinations because those TV shows make these hotels look really amazing. Whether they are for that client or not, that remains to be seen, but they certainly put them in a good light.
So for those of us who don't, I guess, tune into the Real Housewives or the lineup of Bravo shows, I'm curious what destinations are coming up, or or resorts are coming up, and what resorts or destinations you expect maybe to come up in 25.
I see a lot of Turks and Caicos, a lot of Costa Rica, specifically the Springs Resort. I know that's been used several times. Jewel Grand in Montego Bay, that's been used a couple times on the Housewives shows. Turks and Caicos, the Kardashians, Christy Brinkley's always there. We happened to be on a flight with her heading to Turks and Caicos one time. That was interesting. But yeah, anywhere these celebrities are hopping around to in the Caribbean, you'll see them on Instagram sometimes. After the fact, the pictures will come out that they were there, and then everybody wants to go. So yeah.
Kim, what about you? Anything else you're seeing, or any pop culture that's really impacting stuff for you?
Not really anything different per se, but I would say with a lot of it, again, kind of getting back to that setting expectations, they're seeing the Kardashians and all of them in the finest suites getting VIP treatment. So just because they go to the same resort doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have the same experience. So I think it's really important to kind of differentiate between the two and make sure they fully understand what their experience is going to be like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I believe it was you, Kim, who mentioned that because I haven't seen the whole lineup of Bravo shows, but I have seen Below Deck, and you've mentioned that Below Deck seems to pique your clients' interest, and they sort of want that same experience without the same cost that I assume those people are paying.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen just, a lot of people doing Croatia yachting, and it's a fabulous experience. Everyone should try it, but it's not necessarily exactly like you see it on Below Deck. So, again, it's just being realistic, and, it's not an all-inclusive experience. So you're, purchasing alcohol and purchasing foods and things like that. So just for them to know all those little details.
Again, setting expectations again. So, all right. So the last one we want to hit, and then we're gonna wrap up today, is sort of these generational shifts, and how social media is playing a role in it. And I know millennials was sort of the buzz generation for a while. It seems like Gen Z is now that. I'm curious, Jennifer, if we could start with you. I want to know what your experience is with younger generations, particularly Gen Z. Are they approaching you? Are they open to working with you? And if they are, what's their motivation for doing so?
Because I have a bit of a presence on TikTok. They come at me in mass, and they basically are saying, "Oh, I didn't even know. I don't even know what a travel agent is." So I'm finding that social media platforms are a really good place to educate the consumers, especially younger ones, because they think that they can create these vacation experiences, but they're overwhelmed. They're asking around for ideas. They're looking at these things they're seeing on social media. They're trying to recreate them. They don't really know how, they don't know what they're doing. And they really need trusted advisors. They don't know how to find that. They don't even know what that is. So it's a whole, I call it the Wild West out there because they're trying to figure it out, and we're here to help them if they can find us.
So they're finding, I guess, Kim, is this the experience you're having too? Are you seeing Gen Z or younger people not just like very willing to work with you, but actively wanting someone they can trust to work with?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot of younger, I think more younger clients now than we did 10 years ago. So yes, they want to work with someone. They want, once you kind of get them to understand how it all works, which can be challenging sometimes. And also too, I mean, we're really big on, we're not here to get you the cheapest price. We're here to, give you a great experience, and also to be here if something happens and you have a little hiccup in your trip, we're going to help guide you through that. So, sometimes it's getting that shift across to them that our goal is not to save you $3 from, the other price that you may see online. So I think that we are definitely seeing that shift, and just really want to kind of get them to understand how everything works and how we can benefit them.
What's the most difficult thing to get them to understand how it works, particularly like working with you, Kim? Like, is there something that they don't understand? It seems like they don't understand what they don't understand comes in with the relationship with you rather than like traveling in general.
I think like our biggest challenge is they tend to trust Google and TripAdvisor more than someone who has been in the industry for forever, and who has also potentially been to that destination over and over. And that part can be kind of frustrating because, and I'll kind of give them my line that I have people contact me all the time to write reviews for hotels that I've never even stayed at, and they want to pay me. And I'm like, why do you trust those reviews more than someone who's just been to that resort and been there multiple times? So I think for me, that's like my big challenge, is kind of winning them over on that. Or my friend went there, and like I think Jen referenced
Yeah.
earlier, some days I want to cringe if I hear my friend one more time, because your friend may have only done that once. And, we tend to do a lot of the things in our specialty areas over and over and over.
All right, so I do not want to wrap up. Jennifer, you mentioned you have a big presence on TikTok. We had an advisor a couple episodes ago talking about how she again has done really well on TikTok. I was hoping we could sort of wrap up just like, would you talk just a little bit about what kind of impact that platform's having on you, and then what kind of work you're putting into content creation on TikTok?
Yeah, so it's a lot. That's the best way to describe it. I kind of found this platform by accident during COVID, and it just took off. So it's been a full like 2.5 years that I've been putting content on TikTok. It doubled our business in the 2.5 years, and I've been in business almost 25 years. It is absolutely insane what we find on there, and it's amazing, but it's a lot of work. I'm doing content full time and being a travel agent full time. It is a huge undertaking to try to figure out what the actual trends are on there, and what's grabbing not only the audience but also the algorithm to push it out to the right audience. So it's a lot of research. You can't just throw some videos on there and expect it to stick and find anybody. I spend hours actually watching videos trying to figure it out, and not travel videos, just trend videos, trying to figure out what works on there. And yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It seems like obviously it's been worthwhile for you, though. I know I can almost feel your frustration when you're talking about trying to hit that algorithm, which is like a magic thing.
It is.
But it seems like it was well worth it for you and your agency.
It is. It is. It is kind of like trying to find a needle in a haystack half the time, as far as getting bookings. But what's amazing is that that platform specifically is known as having a lot of younger people on there. The majority of our clients are 40 and over that are booking, and they have very high budgets. So if you want to, do the needle in the haystack thing, and you have the time to dedicate to actually learning how to put out quality videos, because I know everybody is traveling and they're getting videos, they're touring these hotels, so they have the content. If they want to give it a go, you definitely should try it.
All right, awesome. All right, again, we spent about 50 minutes on TikTok maybe a couple months ago at this point. So if anyone wants to dive into another TikTok discussion, you can find, again, I plugged the YouTube, but you can find that full video on the YouTube. But I think that's a perfect place to end. Jennifer, Kim, I want to thank you both so much for jumping on here and talking to me today. I really appreciate it. I think this was a perfect episode to set up for 25. So thank you both so much. And we really appreciate you working with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And then Brian, I want to thank Brian and ALG Vacations again for sponsoring today's episode. It's always great working with you guys, and I know a lot of our audience is really a big fan of what ALG Vacations does.
Great, my pleasure. Thank you so much again for the opportunity.
All right, so we'll see you guys one more time in December. Keep a lookout for that. But until then, I hope everyone stays safe and stays healthy. And yeah, we'll see you all really soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.